Okay, so now we're going to place, or we're going to create some text in Photoshop first that we can then place into After Effects. So I am in Photoshop. I've got a blank. I'll show you the size of this document. I think it's 7 inches wide by 5 inches high at 300 dpi, and that resolution there, that's high res. So that's important, especially when you're working in Photoshop, because you want to have a good, clean, smooth edge graphic when it goes into After Effects. I'm going to start off, I'm going to hit T on my keyboard, and that's going to jump me down to right here, the type tool in Photoshop. And as soon as I click, you can see over here in my layers that it creates a new layer. And I'm going to stick with the same theme as the other tutorial. I'm going to type in SURFING, surfing, and right now it is white type on white, so you can't see it, but I'm going to reverse these colors, and I'm going to hit the enter key to drop it and pull it right down into position. With the type tool selected, you can see that I can click in here and I can edit. I can delete the R in surfing and put it back in, hit the enter key to drop it. Now here in Photoshop, there's a number of different things you can do, and I'm going to right click on the layer of that type, and I can convert to a smart object, which After Effects really likes smart objects, but you can also convert something to a smart object once it's in After Effects. For this tutorial, I'm going to rasterize the type, and that's basically turning it into pixels. So now it is no longer editable. I can't click into it with the type tool. I can get one of my selection tools, this rectangular marquee tool, just to show you, select a section of it, hit delete, and it deletes those pixels. I'm going to Command Z that and undo it so you can see. Okay, so at this point, I want to change the color of this type, and I'm going to show you some shortcuts on how to do that. First, I'm going to hold down my Command key and click here on the picture of that layer, and that's going to select everything within that layer. And if I zoom up, you're going to see that there is a selection going around those letter forms or that graphic. And I'll zoom back out. All right, so I'm going to click on my foreground color down here, my toolbar, and it's going to bring up the color picker, and I'm going to choose something in that kind of teal area. I'll pick that color. Now, it doesn't automatically apply. I have this selected. I can either go up to Edit and Fill, or I can hit Option Delete, and that's going to fill whatever's selected with the foreground color. So if I were to reverse these colors, use this little dual-ended arrow and make white the foreground color and hit Option Delete, it's going to go to white. And I'll hit Command Z to go back to the blue because that teal blue is what I want. All right, so that is now floating on its own layer, and I'm going to turn off the background layer so you can see there's the checkerboard showing you that this is transparent at this point. And I'm going to show you something else just to add another kind of more fun aspect to this type. I'm going to double click where the name, around where the name is, not on the picture, but on that layer. And that's going to bring up layer style. And I have all these different options of things that I can do. I could put a drop shadow. So if I went drop shadow, it's a little too large now, so I'm going to back that off. I could have it be a little bit darker, and you can see it's adding that drop shadow to my type. But I don't want that right now. What I want is a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm going to click on Bevel and Emboss, and I'm going to highlight that feature. And you can see already with the settings that are there that I'm getting a shadow on this side and a highlight on this side, and it looks almost three-dimensional, kind of puffy type. I'm going to leave it right there for right now. Now when we go back and we look at the layers, you can see below here it's showing the effects that we applied to that layer. And if I click on the little eyeball there, I can turn off that effect and turn it back on. I haven't actually done anything to the pixels there. I've just laid an effect over it. Okay, one last thing I'm going to do, I want a little bit more color dimension to this type. So I'm going to get my brush tool, which I'm going to hit B on my keyboard, and that jumps to the brush over here. And you can see right now I've got a fairly large brush. I'm going to right click on that brush, and this is going to give me an option to make the brush larger, smaller, and add more hardness or softness. So if I go all the way up at 100% hardness at this brush and hit my enter key, I'm going to hold down Command and click on the picture of that layer to select it. And then with white selected as my foreground color, I'm just going to come across here, and you're going to see that I just did a two-tone. I just painted white over that letter form, and it's got a nice hard edge. And you can see up here too, the opacity is set at 50%. I'm going to Command Z and undo it, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to slide that up to 100% just so that you can see as I come back down and click over it again. Now it's solid white, but I like that 50%. I'm going to go back to there, and this time I'm going to right click on my brush and I'm going to turn the hardness all the way off, go down to 0%. And here I'm going to run across here and just give that, I'm going to undo it, I want a little bit lower, give that a little bit of a gradient blend across that type. And I'm going to now hit Command D, which deselects the type that I have, and I'm going to save it. So I'm going to go Command Shift Save, which is Save As, and I'm going to call this Surfing, I'll call it Dimension. And I'm going to save it just right here in, I'll put it in my tutorials folder for R260. Click OK, and now I have this Photoshop file saved. I don't have to save it as anything else because I want it to be floating when I bring it in to After Effects. And next we will go to After Effects and place this. All right, we're back here in After Effects, and I'm starting with a new project, a blank project, and I'm going to once again go to New Composition from Footage, and I'm going to pull up my surfing video file. And so I have a composition with that. I'm going to also create a new composition, which I'm going to call, we'll call it Surfing PS for Photoshop. And in there, I'm going to import the file that I just made in Photoshop. So come out here to my tutorials, get the surfing dimension, and I'm going to select that composition and just drop this down in there so it's floating. And then I'm going to right click in this area again, say New Composition, and just create my final composition. All right, so with final selected, I'm going to drop in, let's drop in the video composition first, and then the Photoshop composition second, move it to the top so it shows up, and there's my type. I hit the space bar and it starts playing, and there is my type overlapping the video. So works exactly the same way as the tutorial that I did with a type from Illustrator. Here, just to add a little twist to it, I'm going to go to my effects over here, and I'm going to type in drop shadow, and it adds one right there, and I'm going to drop it right on top of the surfing PS for Photoshop, and you're going to see now as I reveal underneath there, there is this drop shadow, and I can come in and change some of these elements. So let's first start with distance. We'll go distance, and I'm going to just click and drag, and you can see that drop shadow drop right off of there, and then I'm going to go to softness, click and drag right there and soften it up. So now it's much more dimensional, and that will move with my type that I dropped in. I'm going to grab the corner of that, begin to scale it, hold down my shift key, and again we'll put it down here in the corner. I'm going to move this all the way to the beginning. I'm going to close out my effects here and go to my transform, and I'm going to click there to drop a keyframe for that position in the video. I'm going to come out, well, I did forget this. I'm going to shorten the surfing graphic to there. I'm going to move my playhead out to about 5 seconds right there, and then I'm going to place a keyframe by clicking there, drag my type up into the left corner. I'm going to have it curve again like I did before. Have a nice gentle curve that I pull down of that path and go back to the beginning. And when I hit the space bar, the type will swing right up into that position and stay there. And that's bringing typography that's been created in Photoshop into After Effects.